I'm press.
I don't care. Get down.
I am press.
I don't care. Get down.
Okay, I'm down. I'm down.
This is Radio Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange. Journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange.
No extradition!
This is Radio Free.
You are listening to
The best news of all is that courage is contagious. We have this myth sometimes, this myth that the future is something that is fixed, static, out there, waiting to happen to us. But the future doesn't happen to us. It's not fixed. It's not out there. The future is created by us, by the aggregation of the millions of choices each of us makes every day. And so I want to leave you with two questions. Number one, what is the future that we want to create? And number two, do we have the courage to create it?
You are listening to Radio Free Assange. Journalism is no crime. Jail the war criminals.
Free
Julian Assange.
In democracies, wars are a result of lies. And why one might think that that should lead us to a state of despair, it should lead us also to an optimistic understanding. Because if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth.
No extradition! It's only one decision! No extradition! It's only one decision! No extradition! It's only one decision! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange.
I'm Julian Assange.
Roger, I'll get you into space.
Editor of WikiLeaks. We've exposed the world's secrets.
These documents belong to the United States government.
Been attacked by the powerful.
The United States strongly condemns.
Hey, quit asking questions. He broke the law.
Illegally shoot the son of a...
Today, we're on a quest for revolutionary ideas that can change the world tomorrow.
This is Radio Free Assange.
We are now approaching the state of Orwell's dictum. Perfect dictum, that he who controls the present controls the past. He who controls internet servers controls the intellectual record of mankind, and by controlling that, controls our perceptions of who we are, and by controlling that, controls what laws and regulations we make in society.
This is Radio Free Assange.
They are about to take every right away from you. You will not be able to fight for any other cause. We are talking about the fundamentals here. We must fight against an extradition. We must save Julian Assange.
Every single, all the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world dedicating significant resources over the past 10 years to destroying his reputation. So it's at a stage now where it's actually you risk something to even defend him. So the facts are very hard to get out. But when you start looking into it, you see that actually this is not a fair trial at all. And from start to finish, it's been irregular. And it's actually a real stain on the British state and the British justice system that they won't live down. I mean, when Edward Snowden tweeted when Assange was grabbed from the embassy by British police. He said something along the lines of this will define Britain's attitude to the free press for generations, and it's true. I mean, that image will live in infamy. So we need to make sure Britain does not become a party to what would be one of the biggest nails in the coffin of the free press that the world has ever seen, maybe the biggest nail in the coffin. So, and for all the people that are watching who live in Britain, you live in the most important jurisdiction for any kind of activism on this topic.
We had some
because
very important statements read out as evidence at the end of the session today. We heard from Cryptome. Cryptome certified that they had themselves been the first people, or among the first people, to publish the unredacted cables, that they had published the unredacted cables before WikiLeaks did, and that no action has been taken against them. They're a US-based organization. The cables are still up on their site, and no action had been taken against them. And also we had evidence from the owners of the Wayback Machine that all the cables have always been up on that site, are still up on that site, and no action has been taken against them. So this, again, is a sign of how very partial this prosecution is. Other than that, today has been devoted to evidence about Julian's medical conditions and about the conditions in American prisons. We've continued to hear complete nonsense from the prosecution to the effect that American maximum security jails are more like a holiday camp where you can do basket weaving and you can do crochet, and really it's quite a nice, jolly place to be. And against that, we've had evidence from former wardens and from lawyers and from others who've been involved in that system to say it's absolute hell. And certainly for at least the first year of confinement, you are kept absolutely in solitary, never seeing another human being except when the door flap opens to give you your food. And we've had discussions between psychiatrists as to the effect to which that would affect Julian's mental health. And I must say, there's a part of me that understands we have an adversarial system, and to some extent I can make allowances for lawyers who are arguing the government case and think that's not terribly immoral because they're taking one side and that's their job, and there's someone on the other side and that's a way of getting at the truth. But I find it very, very hard to understand psychiatrists who would be hired by the government to go in there and say that solitary confinement is not necessarily very deleterious to the mental health of someone subject to depression, because that isn't an opinion which any honest psychiatrist could possibly have. So yet again, we see aspects of this case which are simple moral dereliction. Anyway, we get on. That's the end of the medical evidence, and tomorrow we'll go back to more substantive evidence again. And hopefully we'll also see efforts by the defence to prevent this all being railroaded through far too quickly, because, as you know, the judge is trying to shut down debate and shut down the entire case as soon as possible. Another good day for the defence in terms of the balance and weight of evidence given, but yet again, how much difference that really makes, I remain sceptical. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Radio Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange. Journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange.
No extradition!
You are listening to
The best news of all is that courage is contagious. We have this myth sometimes, this myth that the future is something that is fixed, static, out there, waiting to happen to us. But the future doesn't happen to us. It's not fixed. It's not out there. The future is created by us, by the aggregation of the millions of choices each of us makes every day. And so I want to leave you with two questions. Number one, what is the future that we want to create? And number two, do we have the courage to create it?
You are listening to Radio Free Assange. Journalism is no crime. Jail the war criminals.
Free
Julian Assange.
In democracies, wars are a result of lies. And why one might think that that should lead us to a state of despair, it should lead us also to an optimistic understanding. Because if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth.
No extradition! There's only one decision! No extradition! There's only one decision! No extradition! There's only one decision! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange.
I'm Julian Assange,
Roger, I'll get you in constraint.
editor of WikiLeaks. We've exposed the world's secrets.
These documents belong to the United States government.
Been attacked by the powerful.
The United States strongly condemns.
Hey, quit asking questions. He broke the law.
Illegally shoot the son of a...
Today, we're on a quest for revolutionary ideas that can change the world tomorrow.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
This is Radio Free Assange.
We are now approaching the state of Orwell's dictum, perfect dictum, that he who controls the present controls the past. He who controls internet servers controls the intellectual record of mankind, and by controlling that, controls our perceptions of who we are.
Yeah, sure. I'm Rebecca Vincent, the Director of International Campaigns for Reporters Without Borders. Have monitored another day of proceedings at the Old Bailey in the US extradition case against Julian Assange. Today we heard from two witnesses. One was for the prosecution, Dr. Black, and one was for the defense, Dr. Crosby. Again, we saw a line of questioning from the prosecution that seems to be deliberately misunderstanding issues like depression, like autism. Trying to paint a picture really that if somebody is able to function at all, if they're able to uphold any professional obligations, if they're able to have relationships, that surely they couldn't be so affected by depression or have Asperger's, which is really not accurate and an attempt to undermine serious issues affecting Mr. Assange's well-being. But one thing I wanted to note is even the prosecution's witness, even Dr. Black, is not disputing the fact that Mr. Assange suffers from depression and has autism. It's just a question of the severity. So it's interesting for me to see a medical professional willing to gamble with somebody's life, because that is what is at stake here with Mr. Assange's extradition. This is a question of life or death. And other medical experts who have testified have gone in the other direction, that their concern is for protecting him, not just assuming that possibly he won't attempt suicide if extradited. So we remain very concerned because all testimonies have pointed to Mr. Assange's vulnerability. This is somebody who should not be held in custody and certainly not extradited, not just because of his medical conditions, but again, this case against him should be dropped. He should not be detained at all. So we call again for his release and for the charges against him to be dropped and him certainly not to be extradited to the United States.
This is Radio Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange. Journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange.
No extradition!
You are listening to Free.
Who judges the judges? Shut up now.
This guy. Is he going to do it again? Okay. So Reporters Without Borders petition calling on the UK not to extradite Julian Assange was attacked. It was a targeted spam bot attack. We are still investigating where it originated and exactly how it happened, but we know that a large number of signatures were affected. Around 78,000 signatures on our Free Assange petition were false. They were real email addresses, but with a fake, really lewd name that was easy then for us to identify and remove. So we have secured the petition tool. We have removed the false signatures. The petition is still doing really well, but now we need the public's support to replace those with even more real signatures. We attempted to deliver the petition to 10 Downing Street at the start of these proceedings. They wouldn't take it. We have promised to take it back and to make sure at the end of these proceedings that the UK authorities cannot ignore the voices of tens of thousands of people. Okay. And then the VIP thing? Okay.
This is Radio Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange. Journalism is not a crime. Free
So
Julian
access
Assange.
issues continue. However, there was one improvement today. Until today, 3 seats had been reserved in the public gallery for VIPs. So we had been asking all along, who are these VIPs? They hadn't turned up ever in the morning or the afternoon, yet each sitting the court was holding these seats back from the public. We learned this week that those seats were actually being held for diplomats. We're not sure exactly which diplomats on any given day. But when we raised this with diplomatic contacts, they then intervened with the court. So I want to thank actually the Australian High Commission for raising this with the court, because today the court stopped holding back those seats, and now all 5 seats, which are still not enough, but 5 seats are now available each day in the public gallery to members of the public on a first come first served basis, as was intended the entire time. So for NGOs, that has meant that, you know, there's one less minor obstacle there, but still many other greater obstacles in our ability to observe and follow this hearing. Thank you.
This is Radio Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
This is Radio Free Assange. Journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange.
No extradition!
You are listening to
The best news of all is that courage is contagious. We have this myth sometimes, this myth that the future is something that is fixed, static,